Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. I am your host, Nash, and let's get into it. Gameweek 13 is done, and we have 25 weeks left to go. How was Gameweek 13 for you? With an average of 35 points per week, we are not doing well. We are still dependent on Haaland, and I think we need to start thinking beyond Haaland. It is really bringing us down. I used my, the free hit. I was torn between two options, the free hit and the triple captain. I really wanted to triple captain Haaland because I believed that Leeds were going to be easy, and they were anything but easy, which was very frustrating. But also, most of my team was playing against each other, and so I thought it would make more sense to just change my team in its entirety, just to remove the clashes. And I got only 48, which isn't great, but it's much better than I would have gotten had I not made the moves, because most of my teams were just like 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, and my teams did nothing. My players did absolutely nothing. So in a way, I made the right decision, even if my midfield completely let me down. I think I got collectively 6 or 7 points from my midfield. What a letdown. But 48 isn't bad considering 35 is the average. So, what went wrong? Well, I've already said the obvious. We're super dependent on Haaland, and I think it's now nearly 3 weeks in a row that he's done nothing. And not only that, a lot of people were thinking like me that Leeds would be an easy game, and many of us triple captained him, and he did not deliver. Doku did not deliver. Guess who delivers? Bloody Phil Foden. And this was like his second and third goal of the season. So of course then I brought in 2 defenders for Man City because I thought it was going to be a walkover. No, they concede. Not 1 but 2 goals even. Some other people thought that Liverpool would win the game, which they did. And they thought that it would be easy. But more than that, they thought that Salah would score. Guess what? Salah starts on the bench. And guess what else? He doesn't score. And then guess what else? Liverpool win. So what does this mean for his future going forward? I mean, Africa Cup is around the corner, so there'll be that. So that won't be too pressure-filled. But Isak scores, so that's nice. If you had somehow banked on West Ham to win, you might have had Paqueta. And then Paqueta looks like he wants a break, talks himself into a red card. Bruno gets 2 assists. Mbumo does nothing. And it's very frustrating, especially if you're like me who brought him in after his last big haul and he's collected nothing. I'm happy I didn't have him for this free hit, but I am still not happy with that performance. Semenyo is back, but he only gets 1 point. But if you watch the game, you know that it wasn't his fault that he got 1 point. People let him down. So at least that is encouraging, if that's the right word to use, even if he got 1 point still. That doesn't help you today. The best thing I did with my wild card was, with my free hit, was bring in Thiago, because he is literally the one who carried my team. And now I'm feeling like he should have been the one I captained, but I was too dependent on Haaland. And I'm sure the person who's number 1 triple captained him or something like that. These tally leaders are always so frustrating. And I'm looking at that team hoping and wishing that that's what I had done with my free hit, because I had the opportunity, just not I don't know if it's balls, but yeah. Then Dewsbury Hall performs again, scores again, and I brought in Harvey Barnes. I brought in bloody Harvey Barnes, who has scored 6 of Newcastle's last 8 goals. Newcastle bloody score 4 goals, and he has absolutely nothing to do with anything that happened on that pitch. And then, of course, a bunch of us have Caicedo, and Caicedo gets himself sent off. Bunch of us brought in Eze after he's had a hat-trick. Does nothing. So I'm seeing, of course, Thiaw, who scored for Newcastle, has been brought in already by many people. Watch out. But a whole lot of nothing is coming. I brought in Sar, got substituted, got injured quite early in the game, 1 point. Some people had Calafiori, had 9 DEFCON points, subbed at halftime. If you're one of those people who benched Chalobah because you knew that this game was not going to be a clean sheet, I mean, you were right, but also sorry. Everton put up a masterclass against Manchester United and then crumbled with 11 men. After so much of nothing, bunch of ourselves Voltamada, then guess what? He performs. Liverpool have been unable to keep a clean sheet, so maybe we removed, like me, for this free hit I removed Van Dijk, and guess what? Liverpool keep a bloody clean sheet. Nottingham Forest had been impressive, and so I was just like, oh, let me bring them on. They lose 2-0. Some people brought in Welbeck. He doesn't score. People expecting better things from Bournemouth. Start off 2-0, you think Sanes is going to do well. They lose 3-2. Spurs was Spurs. I brought in Morgan Rogers hoping for a hat-trick. Aston Villa win 1-0. Watkins does nothing as usual, but he's also complimented further by Aaron Rodgers, Mr. Rogers. Yeah, so you've heard so many reasons we did nothing. The highest scoring game of the game week was Newcastle 4, Everton 1. This was also a bit of a surprising result for me because Newcastle tend to be so poor at home. To score 4 is, you couldn't even make this up if you wanted. The previous record before this was atrocious. So the thing that really stood out for me in this game was Eric Bonham. He played so poorly for Everton, and in my eyes, I see him directly responsible for 2 of those goals. I think had there been just anybody else, maybe just Ganage's absence was really that important, but he was horrible. He missed a challenge, he missed the ball, and from those 2 things, 2 goals came straight. And so if somebody just has a reasonable first touch and just better anticipation, this game ends 2-1. And then it's a respectable scoreline. So he was directly responsible. Now, Mr. Miley, who hasn't played in a while, has his first start and then ends up being so influential in this game. I think he had 2 assists and a goal. No, sorry. He had an assist and a goal. Malik Thiaw, the German, not the Frenchman, opened the scoring. And then Danban had the assist for Luis Miley. Then Elanga gave Voltamada a really good pass after Eric Bonham missed the challenge, and Voltamada chipped the keeper. Then Lewis Hall had a beautiful cross for Malik Thiaw to head it in. Tieno Barry had a goal ruled offside. It was a good try. And then Tarkowski, if you had Tarkowski, at least he had an assist. Gave a nice long ball through for Dewsbury Hall, who had a really good finish. And so that's how the game ended, 4-1. Lewis Miley with his goal and assist had the 3 bonus points. Thiaw had 2, and Voltamada, who scored for the first time in 5 games, had 1 bonus point. The most disappointing result of the game week has to be Manchester City 3 and Leeds 2. And this is purely from a fantasy perspective because we've banked on Haaland. We've been banking on Haaland, and we really banked on him in this game more than maybe any other game this season, and he let us down. Leeds put up a really good fight. Mecha and Calvert-Lewin scored for them. Foden had 2 goals, Vardiol had 1, Matheus Nunes had an assist, O'Reilly had an assist, Czech had an assist. Donnarumma saved a penalty, which was great for me because he was my keeper. I expected a clean sheet. But Haaland not scoring is really what disappoints in this game. And not only that, he barely looked like he was going to score. At least in the last game, it just looked like he had a bad day at the office. But this day, it felt like this game was not influenced by his presence or absence. Had he not played, it would have been the same. That's what it felt like, especially when you just want him to score and you're seeing nothing is coming his way. Doku has gone back to his old self. Foden had 2 goals. Vardiol had 1. Mecha and Calvert-Lewin scored, like I said. Foden had the 3 bonus points. Calvert-Lewin, maybe his best game in Leeds shirts, got 2, and Reinders got 1. The marquee game of the weekend was Chelsea 1, Arsenal 1. Now, of course, this game, like I said earlier, Caicedo got a red card. Up until that point, from my biased and unbiased eyes, it looked like Chelsea were more likely to score, or they had created the better chances. And then the red card happened, and the game sort of flipped. Now it was just Chelsea somehow scored through Chawaloba, and then Saka had a really great assist for Merino's goal, And yeah, it wasn't the best game. I feel like the red card really changed what this game could have been. And so you have Chalobah scoring from a James assist and Merino scoring from a Saka assist. Game could have been more, but it was what it was. Ended up 1-1. James had 3 bonus points, Merino 2, and Chalobah 1. So this means at the top of the table, nothing has really changed. When it comes to a surprising result, I have to say Sunderland 3, Bournemouth 2 is a surprising result. Not in the end of the result itself, but in the how. Because Sunderland really showed their persistence. I've talked about this before when I've told you how strong they are in terms of how they fight for the entire game. And this was probably the best example of that. They were down 2-0 and they clawed themselves back into the game with a penalty by Enzo Lefebvre. And then Traore scored a goal to bring it back to 2-2. And then Robbie came on, scored the goal that wins the game. Now, on the other side, Bournemouth, Adley scored and Tyler Adams scored maybe the goal of the weekend. And funny enough, it was a great goal, but not better than Richarlison's in my eye, but it was a really great goal. Evan Nilsson really made the night difficult for Semenyo. He should have finished better. But I guess it went how it went. Reinildo had an assist, Enzo Lefebvre had an assist, and Shaq had an assist. So it won't be surprising if you heard that Enzo Lefebvre had the 3 bonus points. Adams, who scored the worldie, had 2. Robbie and Traore each had 1. Sunderland are a force. So there were 3 clean sheets this weekend, and that means that defense didn't do as well as it has in the past. Martinez, Verbruggen both had 7. Alisson had 6. Donnarumma 5. Raya, Sanchez, Perry, and Johnston had 3. When it comes to defenders, of course, you know, the top scoring defenders would be here. Malik Thiaw, 2 goals, puts you right up there, 16 points. De Kuyper, 15 points. Tete, 12 points. Gomez, 11. Chalobah, 9. And those are the top 5 defenders. When it comes to midfielders, Foden, 15. Miley, 15. Gakpo, who out of nowhere comes and scores, 14. Enzo Lefebvre, 13. Ouattara, 12. Kamara, 11. Bruno, 11. Harry Wilson, 10. So midfield was king, even though the top performer was Malik Thiaw. When it comes to forwards, Thiago, 13 points. Xerxes, 9 points. Calvert-Lewin, 7. Isak, who finally scores, 7. Voltemada, 7. So strike force, not so great this weekend. Let's look at some stats. For the second time this season, Erling Haaland was the most triple captained player. But unlike the last time when he had like 16 points against Burnley, he only had 2, which was a big disappointment. Such was the confidence in this triple captain that this is the second most triple captained player of all time after Haaland last season. Sorry, I mean in the 23-24 season, when 1.3 million people triple captained him, and this time he was only captained by, not only captained, but he was triple captained by 1.17 million. So that's how much faith people had in him to deliver. So that was a huge disappointment. 97% of managers who used their triple captain this week triple captained Haaland. It is also the first time that Haaland has blanked at home against a promoted side, which further vindicates us because he has a great record against promoted sides. He scores against all of them. This is the first time he hasn't scored against one at home. So painful. 7,827 managers triple captained Thiago, and those are the real winners. Well done, guys. Well done to you guys. You're the ones who are thinking outside the box. So, triple captainers this week. He was, of course, Haaland was triple captain 1.17 million times this week. Thiago 7,827. And then Salah was triple captain by 2690 people. So, unless their vice captain was good, that was also not a great call. Thiago was the most brought in player last game week, with 1.3 million people bring him on. And he snaps like a 4-game streak where the person who's brought in the most blanked. And so He came in and gave us 13 points. So well done to you, sir. And well done to everybody who brought him in. When it comes to DEFCON points, Weaver had the most. He had 25. Collins from Brentford had 22. Semenyo from Fulham had 18. Andre from Wolves had 18. Anderson from Nottingham Forest had 18. Tete had 18 from Fulham. Chelsea have received 6 red cards this season, which of course you know is number 1 in the Premier League. Bruno Fernandes has produced more assists than anyone this season so far, and he has 5. Moses Caicedo received his first red card in the Premier League in his 130th appearance. You'd think it would be more. He is the 7th Chelsea player to be sent off against Arsenal, and the first since David Luiz, who last got sent off in 2017. It was also the first time on record from 06 or 07 that Arsenal have seen 3 players getting a yellow card in the opening 30 minutes of the game. It was quite a feisty game. Unai Emery has won 61 of his 114 Premier League games as Aston Villa boss. It is a joint most victories as any manager has in charge of the villains in the competition, level with John Gregory and Martin O'Neill. So he's already becoming their best manager ever. Isak finally scored, and it was his first goal in 8 matches, ending his joint longest scoring drought in the competition, which is also 7 games. Bruno Fernandes now has 56 Premier League assists for Manchester United, which is more than Paul Scholes, who has 55. And he's now behind Ryan Giggs, who has 162, and Wayne Rooney, who have 93, and Beckham, who have 80. I don't know if he definitely won't surpass Ryan Giggs. Definitely. I can't put anything down on that. And maybe Rooney might be tough, but maybe Beckham will be doable. Maybe. Xerxes scored his first goal since December 2024. I hope we don't have to wait that long for his next goal. Tottenham suffered their 10th home defeat in 2025. It is now their joint most home league defeats in a single calendar year since 1994 and 2003, when they also suffered 10 home defeats. Tottenham are averaging 9.5 shots and 3.2 shots on target per game in the Premier League this season, which is their lowest on record since the 03-04 season. Like I said, this guy is having them play like a promoted side. Fulham were up 2-0 in the opening 6 minutes of the game. That is the earliest Tottenham have ever considered 2 goals in a Premier League home game. Tyler Adams scored a really beautiful long-distance goal, so the keeper off his line, and it was from 43.3 meters, which is the longest this season so far. But Caicedo has scored from further, which is 50.5 meters last year in May 2024. When it comes to the top transfers in this week, would it surprise you if I told you that Thiago is number 1? He's valued now at 6.7. 143,000 people have brought him in. Phil Foden, of course, has been brought in by 107,000. Timber brought in by 99,000. Munoz, 96,000. Eze, 90,000. Top players out. Senesi, 186,000. Gabriel, 153,000. Caicedo, 133,000. Semenyo, 88,000. João Pedro, 84,000. So you can see Senesi and Caicedo are suspended for the next game. Gabriel is still injured. When it comes to the most points this week, somebody triple captained Foden. Of course they did. 45 points. And then Cherki had 4. Gakpo had 14. Rogers had 3. Thiago had 13. Isak had 7. Haaland had 2. Cash had 6. Virgil van Dijk had 6. Thiaw had 16. Martinez had 7. And that got 123 points. And this is not a free hit, guys. This is just how this person has their team. Well done to you, sir. And your name is First. In our group, Arnold Medunga, FC Safika Mapamba, had 76 points and is our leader this week. Just like me, he used his free hit, but better than me, he got 76 points. In goal, he had Martinez, who gave him 7. Matty Cash gave him 6. Collins gave him 4. O'Reilly gave him 4. Mukiele gave him 0. Gakpo gave him 14. Anderson gave him 6. Foden gave him 15. Rogers gave him 3. Thiago gave him 13. Captain Haaland gave him 4. And that is how he got 76. Now, when it comes to the rest of our table, the top 5, number 2 was Jayaram Pajapati, who got 71. Identity got 71. Army Chief got 70. And number 5 is Mike's team, who got 66 points. On the other end, Bonaji got 16 points. I'm just looking at his team. Okay, so Haaland, of course, 4 points. Mateta, 6 points. Bowen, 2. Palinia, 1. Grealish, 2. Paqueta, -1. Caicedo, -2. Munoz, 1. Diouf, 1. Gay, 0. Petrovic, 2. Polisana Bonaji, I know this is not a great season for you. Following closely was Chris Masika, who got 17 points. Dejan Savesky got 19 points. Jeremy Yego got 19 points. And rounding up the bottom 5 is TK, who got 21 points. Most points this week belongs to Papichulo. Papichulo had 25 points on the bench. That's already more than Bonaji. So the bench he had Konate, who had 1. João Pedro, who had another 1. And so Konate, who had 8, and that takes it to 10. And then he had De Kuiper, who had 15 points. If he had these guys on his pitch, goodness, he would have been number 1 in our group. Muhammad Shine had 23. Omar Champes had 22. Stephen Chiari had 20, along with Patrick Kaiser and Marquisio for 20 points on the bench. That's painful. The team with the most goal scorers was FC Safi Kama Pamba. This is Arnold Midunga. And of course, he had the most points, 5 different goals. The team with the best midfield was Hector Orembo's team that had 44 points. Goodness, if my team did that, I would have done well. My midfield had like 12. When it comes to the team with the best defense, Mike Mbogwa's team had 38 points from his defenders. Well done. When it comes to the most transfers made this week, Mike's team, Mike Mbogwa, had 11 transfers. Edwin Kandie, 6. Victor Nyabola, 6. Kojo Danso, 5. And in number 5, we have Santi Mark and Don Clinton, who had 4. When it comes to the best transfer outcome, Arnold Midunga, of course, got 42 points better than had he not used his free hit. Identity, 40 points better. Jayaram, 35 points better. Khalid, 31 points better. Jeremy and Army Chief, 30 points better. Now on the other end, Victor Nyabola lost 19 points, but was better if he had done nothing. Don Clinton, -15. Joe Mbogwa, -11. Harry Potter, -9. Arnoldinho Arnold, Gerald Juma, Bodie Blahowicz, -8 from the transfers made. Highest team value belongs to Kapiende Massive, whose team is now valued at 104.5. Goodness, well done to you. On the other end, Murunga Imanyara has his team at 97.4. Papichulo has gained 0.5 to his team thanks to his transfers. Well done to you, sir. Victor Nyabola and Edwin Kandie and Kojo Danso have all lost 0.6. Well, maybe next week will be better. This week's best differential pick belongs to Mike Mbogwa. He had Malik Thiaw, and only 1% of our league own him. So, well done to you. That was a great differential this week in our league table. Number 2 was Timo Dera, who, for whatever reason, had Lewis Smiley. And I gave him 15 points, and he's also owned by 1%. Well done to you, sir. Melvin Kater has increased in global rank the most in our group this week. He has jumped up 1.2 million positions globally. Most decreased is Bonaji. Then he has dropped 978,000 points this week. His page must just be red. When it comes to streak of green arrows, Long Lilo Otiomundi has been having a streak of 9 game weeks in a row. Please tell me you should come and be a guest on this podcast. Tell us what you're doing. Streak of red arrows, Zetu FC has been struggling along with Suraj Paigane. 6 weeks in a row of red arrows. So don't worry, Banaji, it can get worse, but you're fine. When it comes to our league, Red Hot Sesko has jumped 29 positions. Watch out. When it comes to league dropping, Chris Masick has dropped 24 positions in rank in our table this week. When it comes to captain choices, an overwhelming number of us, and by that I mean 158 of us, decided to captain Haaland. 158 of us. 7 of us captained Salah. 4 of us captained Mateta. Another 4, João Pedro. Another 3, Mbumo. Another 3, Saka. Another 2, Wood. Another 2, Bruno. Another 2, Palmer. 1 captained Gyokeres. Another 1, Bowen, Hudson-Odoi, Grealish, Gakpo, Van Dijk, Raul, Eze, Watkins, Marino, and Gabriel. Yeah, so that's how our captaincies went. We were very aligned, and so we failed in the same way. You know, when they say a single point of failure can be traced to Haaland. When it comes to our league table, we have a new number 1, Arnold Midunga. Those 76 points have really carried him. He is now number 1 and has a total of 816 points. Madagani Kihoro has 803 points. Jeffrey Jeremy is in third with 802 points. Charlie Cardavillis has 784 points. Alan Muchangi has 781 points along with Franklin Asiema. Number 7 is Ron Chisaka, who has 778 points. John Mwangemi has 775 points. Amos Langat has 770 points. Palma Champere wraps up the top 10 with 768 points. Number 1 has 816 points. 100 points below him is Black Adam at number 43, who has 716 points. So as you can see, that gap of 100 points is becoming smaller and smaller. So I think up to about number 43, you still have a chance to shock everybody in the league. With others, you need to pull up your socks a little bit more. At the bottom of our table, the bottom 5 are as follows. Number 196, Mark Moura, who has 114 points. Don Clinton, number 195, has 350 points. Murungai Manyara, 194, has 481 points. Mike Mbogwa has 482 points. And Eddie Olang has 505 points. As we look forward to next week is tomorrow. December has come, and this means games are going to be coming quick and fast. And to that end, we need to be very quick with our decision making and on top of ourselves. December is a holiday month and people tend to let go a bit. This is where the real differential in ranks are made. So tomorrow, Tuesday, December 2nd, we will see our first game, Bournemouth versus Everton. And let's see. Bournemouth were beaten very, I don't want to say painfully, but painfully, 3-2 after leading 2-0. Everton were just demolished. So both teams are looking to do better. Bournemouth have lost 3, drawn 1 and won 1 in their last 5 games. Everton have won 2, drawn 1 and lost 2. So their form is not great, both teams. Now, when you look at the head-to-head, Bournemouth have won 5 of their last 5 encounters and will therefore be favourites in this encounter. Now, should you believe this to be true, Semenyo, Tavernier, maybe Adams will score another beautiful goal again, but Semenyo, Tavernier, Adams, you could gamble with Evan Nilsson, but he seems to be a bit cold right now. On the Everton side, you know, if Everton are going to do anything, it's going to be their defense. But I would say if you get Dewsbury Hall, who has scored 2 in a row now, he would be somebody that it would be an unlikely pick. So Dewsbury Hall, and then Tarkowski, and then you can choose Grealish or Ndiaye in that order. Now, moving on, you have Fulham versus Man City. Both teams won over the weekend, and Man City made it look much more difficult than it needed to be. Man City have a good record against Fulham. They have won also 5 of their last 5 encounters and will therefore be favourites in this game. Now, of course, we'll all be hoping for Haaland in this encounter. But looking at their last 5 games, Man City have lost 2 of their last 5 and won 3. Fulham have won 3 of their last 5, drawn 1 and lost 1. So both teams are in relatively good form. Now, of course, you know Haaland is a top scorer, so he would be the first player I recommend from City. Now, the problem with this Pep Roulette is that you don't know who will play, but if Foden plays, have him again. If you believe in Vardiol, have him. If you believe in O'Reilly like I do, have him. If you want Nunes on the other flank, have him. On the Fulham end, now, Harry Wilson, King, and Jimenez are the 3 I would recommend. You could try Tete again, but I think Man City will be a bit tougher than Spurs were. Speaking of Spurs play Newcastle at home. Now, Newcastle at home are a different beast. Looking at their last 5 fixtures, Newcastle have won 3 and drawn 2. So Newcastle seem to be favored in this fixture. And given how Spurs play, it makes sense. If you want to talk about their recent form, Spurs have lost 3 of their last 5, drawn 1, won 1. Newcastle have won 3 of their last 5 games and lost 2. Newcastle are in better form. If you want to choose players from this team, honestly, there's a reason Malik Thiaw has been brought in, and that's because he scored. So people tend to go with the recency biased. And if you just want to go with recency biased, Malik Thiaw, Lewis Smiley, and Voltemada are your top 3 picks. If you want to go more historical, like what I did, I chose Harvey Barnes because he had scored 6 of their last 8 games and then he blanked in a 4-1. Still hurts. Anyway, you could choose Elanga or Harvey Barnes, but just based, I would go with Voltemada, Elanga, and Harvey Barnes, honestly. Those are the 3 I would recommend. Now, when it comes to Spurs, Colomoni had a great game in the Champions League, but of course did nothing. So I would say Kudus should be your first pick. Don't pick a defender, and then choose Richarlison or Colomoni. Those are the 3. Now, on Wednesday, Arsenal will take on Brentford. Now, Arsenal drew with Chelsea and Brentford won. Now, Thiago picked up a knock, and it isn't clear if he will play, but if he will play, he should be number 1 on your choices. Now, looking at their last 5 encounters, Arsenal have won 4 of their last 5 and drawn 1. You see, unlike last week, these games, they are seeming easier to pick a player from. Now, the problem with Arsenal is that Saliba and Gabriel are out, and the heart of the defense isn't exactly what it was before. Calafiori also got subbed at quite early in the game, and it's unclear whether he has recovered. And it's just 1 day, so that will be tough to know. The problem is that the game week starts tomorrow and you won't have time, so you have to make your decisions quickly. Now, Merino is going to start up top, and he has a chance to score headers. So I would say Merino, Saka, and Rice. I'm not sure about their defense, and given Igor Thiago's form, it seems likely that Brentford can score. If you're choosing Brentford players, Thiago, of course, should be number 1, Ouattara, and then maybe Hickey or Collins. Collins because he tends to get DEFCON points. And if Brentford are to get anything in this game, DEFCON points will be important. Now, Brighton take on Aston Villa. This is going to be a tricky game. Aston Villa have won 5 of their last 5 games. Brighton have won 3 of their last 5, drawn 1, lost 1. Their head-to-head favors Aston Villa. Aston Villa have won 3 of their last 5. Brighton have won 1 and drawn 1. So Aston Villa are favourites, and their form places them as such. Now, should you believe in them? The problem with Aston Villa is that you don't know who will score. Camara scored last time, and I was just like, why? Why wasn't it Rodgers and not Aaron Rodgers? As I said earlier, Morgan Rodgers. So I would say Buendia, Marlon, and Rodgers are still the best options for Aston Villa. And if you believe in their defense, Matty Cash. Now, Brighton have been good defensively of late, and they've been okay going forward. Should you believe in them, Minter, De Kuyper, and Welbeck are your best bets. Now, moving on, we have Burnley versus Crystal Palace. Both teams lost over the weekend, and both teams are not in the best of form. Burnley have lost 4 of their last 5 encounters and won only 1. Crystal Palace have won 2, drawn 1 and lost 2. And most recently lost 2. So their form is, we don't know if it's going down, but whatever it is, they will be looking to change that against Burnley. Now, should you believe in them, Mateta, Hino, and Munoz are the best players from Crystal Palace. On the Burnley side, Fleming has been scoring. And if you're looking for that third striker that maybe you want to put on the bench, he would be a great one to have. Him, Cullen, and maybe Florentino Luis. Now, moving on, we have Wolves versus Forest. This seems like an easy game to have a Forest defender. Of course, you know, Wolves have lost 5 in a row. Nottingham Forest have won 3 in a row. Have won 3 of their last 5 games. Lost 1, drawn 1. So they're a team that is recovering. When you look at the head-to-head, it is 4 draws and 1 win for Nottingham Forest. And then given form, I would still favor Forest over Wolves. I think it would be a good tactic to bet against Wolves and Leeds at this point, and Burnley. Now, if you're choosing a player from Forest, I would say Morgan Gibbs-White and your defender, be it Milenkovic or Sells or Savona. Yeah, that's it. But Anderson also gets DEFCON points. So I'd say Gibbs, Anderson, and your choice of defender. If for whatever reason you're deciding that you want to choose a Wolves player, which you shouldn't, you should go with Mr. Strand Larson, and then maybe that's it. You shouldn't have more than one Wolves player. You shouldn't even have a Wolves player, but if you should have a Wolves player, it should just be one, and that should be Strand Larson. Then you have Leeds versus Chelsea. Leeds have lost 4 of their last 5 games and won 1. Chelsea have won 3 and drawn 2 of their last 5 games. You can tell they're on opposite sides of the table and both points and form. It goes without saying that Chelsea are favourites for this fixture. Leeds have been whipping boys of late, and this should continue. Should you believe in Chelsea's capacity to win this game, I think you should be having maybe Neto, maybe Fernandes and Estevao. Of course, you know Caicedo is not going to be there, so it means Santos is going to play more. On the other end, if you believe Calvert-Lewin is about to pick up form, have him. Mecha, and maybe... Actually, that's it. You shouldn't be getting into Leeds for this fixture, but those are the greatest chances of goals for them. Liverpool versus Sunderland. Have you ever seen a game that you know there's no clean sheet? I honestly, if you tell me Liverpool would win, I can believe that. If you tell me Sunderland will win, I can easily see that happening. They just don't know when to quit. Unless they're like hammered, I can see them getting something out of this game. Liverpool have lost 3 of their last 5 and won 2. Sunderland have won 2, drawn 2, lost 1. Sunderland have been fighting and they have fought. And I could see them getting a result in this game. Now, given that Salah did not start the last game, it makes this a bit tricky. Isak scored, so that's something. So if you're an Isak believer, this might be the time to get back into him. And Gakpo also scored. So maybe Isak, Gakpo, and maybe Gomez or Van Dijk or Konate, your defensive choice. But honestly, at this point, maybe just having 2 is fine. And it could be Isak or Gakpo. On the other end, Enzo Lefebvre should be your number 1 choice if you're getting a Sunderland player at this point. Isidore and then Traore. To wrap it up, we will have Manchester United versus West Ham. Now, both teams are going through different things. They're both in transition. Manchester United had a great victory over Crystal Palace. The result is a result, and that's what they would have wanted. West Ham, not so great a result against Liverpool, but it was also kind of expected, so you can't be disappointed in West Ham losing to Liverpool, you know? Now, given their last 5 games, West Ham have won 3 and Man United have won 2. But given their current situations, I still place Manchester United as favourites in this encounter. Believe that as well. Bruno, Bomo, and actually Bruno, Zexi, and Mount should be your top 3 players. Now, Paqueta got sent off, so he will not be playing in this fixture. Bowen and Wilson are your best bets for anything good happening for West Ham. So those are other players I'd recommend should you choose players from West Ham. When it comes to choosing a captain, let's see, Bournemouth, Everton. Do you see a captain here? I don't. Not yet. Man City versus Fulham, given their record, it still unfortunately is Haaland, but I'm hoping that we can look beyond him. Might it be Foden? Who knows? Newcastle will be at home, so if you can pick maybe a Voltemada if you have him, or an Elanga, it could be something interesting. Arsenal are playing Brentford, and Thiago, given his form, should be a captain possibility, not a number one out of the game weeks matches, but he's an option. And then you could have maybe Rice or Saka or Merino. Brighton versus Aston Villa, I don't see a clear captain. Burnley versus Crystal Palace, Mateta, I can see. I could even see somebody having Munoz. Wolves versus Nottingham Forest, Morgan Gibbs-White could be something. Chelsea versus Leeds, Neto is a possibility. Liverpool versus Sunderland, if you told me Isak, I could believe that. If you told me Enzo Lefebvre, I can see that. If you told me Gakpo, that could be fine. Man United versus West Ham, Bruno is not a bad idea. Bomo is also a possibility. Xerxes is a possibility. And if you're somehow choosing a captain from West Ham, maybe Bowen. When it comes to the FPL FDR, Arsenal have Brentford, Villa, Wolves, Everton, and Brighton. These are good fixtures, albeit the next two are a bit tricky because Villa and Brentford are in good form, but they're still winnable. I could see them conceding in both matches, and so maybe I'll enter the defense with the Wolves game, or maybe when Saliba or Gabriel is back, I'm not trusting in Hincapié and Mosquera. Aston Villa have Brighton, Arsenal, West Ham, Man United, and Chelsea. Their fixtures are beginning to increase in difficulty. Outside West Ham, the rest of their fixtures are difficult. Bournemouth have Everton, Chelsea, Man United, Burnley, and Brentford. Honestly, given how they've been playing of late, I'm seriously considering getting out of them. Brentford have Aston Villa, Tottenham, Leeds, Wolves, and Bournemouth. Honestly, after this Arsenal game, I'm bringing Thiago. Brighton have Aston Villa, West Ham, Liverpool, Sunderland, and Arsenal. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but there's potential for points for them. And I'm still gonna hang on to my Welbeck. Burnley have Crystal Palace, Newcastle, Fulham, Bournemouth, and Everton. I'm not getting into Burnley. They're looking like the whipping boys now. Chelsea have Leeds, Bournemouth, Everton, Newcastle, Aston Villa. Chelsea are a good team and they're doing well. And Bournemouth and Newcastle are the most difficult games along with Aston Villa. But given their form, I think Aston Villa will be the most difficult of the five. So I'm going to maintain my Chelsea players. Crystal Palace have Burnley, Fulham, Man City, Leeds, and Tottenham. Outside Man City, they could definitely win the rest of the games. Everton have Bournemouth, Forest, Chelsea, Arsenal, and Burnley. The thing about Everton is that they somehow put in defensive performances. You just don't know where they're going to be. These are not great fixtures from my just initial glance, so I wouldn't be getting into Everton. But I'm sure they will surprise us. Fulham have Man City, Crystal Palace, Burnley, Forest, and West Ham. I think after the Crystal Palace game, I might consider getting like a Harry Wilson or maybe one of their defenders. Leeds have Chelsea, Liverpool, Brentford, Crystal Palace, and Sunderland. Crystal Palace are not doing well right now, and I think that trend will continue. I think they're just out of their depth. Liverpool have Sunderland, Leeds, Brighton, Tottenham, and Wolves. These are all competitive fixtures. I think definitely Leeds will be easy, but yeah, maybe after the Sunderland game, get into Liverpool. Man City have Fulham, Sunderland, Crystal Palace, West Ham, and Nottingham Forest. These all look like winnable fixtures to me. The only problem is who will you have? Man United have West Ham, Wolves, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Newcastle. Honestly, all winnable games. Outside maybe Newcastle and Aston Villa, I see them winning the next few games. But then they lost Everton, so we can't forget that they are unpredictable. Newcastle have Tottenham, Burnley, Sunderland, Chelsea, Man United. Whew. Outside Burnley, the rest of the games are just tricky. You could tell me they're going to lose the next 4 to 5, and I can believe that. You could tell me also that they'll win 4 of the next 5. I can believe that. Out of this, they have 3 home games, so they have potential to win at least in 2 of them. Nottingham Forest have Wolves, Everton, Tottenham, Fulham, and Man City. I had high hopes for Nottingham Forest this game week. I brought in Savona. They lost 2-0. They're still in transition. If you believe in them as a transition, you can be rewarded. But I am going to wait before I make any decision about them. I still need more convincing. Spurs have Newcastle, Brentford, Forest, Liverpool, Crystal Palace. Like I've said before about Spurs, they can beat anybody and can lose to anybody. They're still the same inconsistent team. Thomas Frank hasn't changed that element of them. He's just now made them approach games like a mid-table club. So with Spurs, if it's just about hitting the jackpot. Sunderland have Liverpool, Man City, Nottingham, and Newcastle, Brighton, and Leeds. Honestly, I expect them to lose 3 out of the next 5, but they won't be easy to beat. And so it would be quite interesting to see what they do against Liverpool and Man City. Definitely worth watching. West Ham have Man United, Brighton, Aston Villa, Man City, and Fulham. These are still good fixtures for them. Outside Man City and Aston Villa, I think they can get something, but they need momentum. They look like a team of momentum, and they just need to kickstart it. If they're able to, it'll be fine. If they're unable to, it'll be bad. Wolves have Forest, Man United, Arsenal, Brentford, and Liverpool. Honestly, these guys are going to be relegated. I'm even doubting if they'll be able to reach 11 points. And yeah, so I'll just steer clear of them. Rob Edwards has a big job on his hands, and let's see what he can do. Outside that, the Gameweek starts tomorrow, like literally tomorrow. Today's Monday. It starts on Tuesday. So, take your day off, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.